local Bernie Sanders supporters are here having a watch party. We're about 10 minutes into the 5th Democratic debate. Now, it's being hosted by a group called Bernie 2020 Humboldt, but supporters of all candidates are welcome to this watch party tonight. One of the missing hikers, a 33-year-old woman from Arcata, was hiking here at Patrick's Point on Sunday evening. Search and rescue crews looked for her until about 10 p.m., but were forced to call off the search until 8 a.m. the next morning. I'm down here at the marina, been speaking to some of the fishermen about the news, but some of them, I'm told, are still out there fishing, collecting some of their gear, using all they can of these final hours of the fishing season that is set to close tonight at midnight. Also at 6:30 p.m. over on Main Street, there were the firefighter games. So it really was an action-packed day here at the Fortuna Rodeo. I'm here with the Humboldt County Clerk, Kelly Sanders. Kelly, what has the turnout been like in comparison to previous elections you've overseen here in the county?
Well, I can say that this is the busiest I've ever seen my office.
There are 3 smaller spot fires that have developed around it. They say those smaller spot fires, 2 of them are about 50 by 50 feet in size, and then kind of the bigger third spot fire is about 100 feet by 50 feet. So that's what the firefighters are dealing with here. That storm causing dangerous conditions and road closures, like you can see here behind me on the Avenue of the Giants. You know, as you can see that sign there saying that the road beyond is flooded, and just you can tell all over the road here, just very slick, slippery, wet conditions, a lot of thick mud on the sides over here too. So it's definitely a road you want to avoid if you need to be traveling this way. In their statement released on Friday, the sheriff's office said, quote, "Please understand you have heard one side of a highly sensationalized story." The HCSO went on to say that they were blindsided by the series' shift from the challenges faced by law enforcement in the face of marijuana legalization to the ongoing homicide investigation of Garrett Rodriguez. From 6 a.m. Wednesday to 6 a.m. Thursday, members of the National Union of Healthcare Workers are on strike, refusing to work in a push for better conditions for themselves and, in turn, the patients they care for.
The patients suffer because there's not enough hands at bedside. Call lights are taking too long to be answered. The emergency department has an extremely long wait time due to processing failures.
We have every intent, and always have, of paying our caregivers a fair and just wage. It's part of our culture.
St. Joseph Chief Executive Roberta Luskin-Hawk says she's disappointed in the union's decision to strike, and that it's unfortunate the union raises a question about patient care safety.
We have a lot of clarity about how we're doing in terms of patient safety and even staffing. When the CDPH comes in, and the unions sometimes will call them in to take a look, repeatedly the California Department of Public Health says that there are no issues with staffing.
Luskin-Hawk says over 100 NUHW members across Humboldt County reported to work Wednesday, but the union says about 300 workers showed up to participate.
As a negotiator, it makes you feel so good when you see the support that you have behind you. And this is all about the patients and the community. And these folks want to be in there. They want to take care of their patients.
But both sides say they have the care of the community as their top priority.
I think it shows exactly what Providence Healthcare is all about. They're about taking the money out of our community that they owe us, that we give to them, and not reinvesting in our community itself.
Several months ago, NUHW talked about how they wanted to have an impact across Providence, St. Joseph in multiple locations. My concern is that what's happening today isn't really representative of our community, our ability to care for a community, or what's best for the long-term health of Humboldt.
Many scientists believe the planet is gradually getting warmer each year due to man-made climate change. Over the last 10 years, the average monthly temperature in California in June, July, and August has climbed by about 2 degrees. Each of the 3 graphs illustrating the averages over that 10-year span have something in common: a slight cooling trend from 2007 to 2011, then a more dramatic heating trend from 2011 to 2017.
As temperature rises, fuels dry out, humidity levels drop, which extracts more moisture from the fuel and increases the potential for ignition and large fire growth.
It just so happens the number of fires and the acres those fires scorched each year seems to correlate with changes in temperature. From 2007 to 2010, the number of fires CAL FIRE responded to gradually decreased, before kicking up again in 2011 and onward. A graph plotting the average temperatures of June through August perfectly fits a graph showing California's wildfire activity over the same 10-year period. But does correlation mean causation in this case?
Temperature is a definite factor. So we can see in the data you provided the last 10 years that there is a fire size increase with an increase in temperature. But there's also the fact that fuels, hazardous fire fuels, play a role in the size of those fires.
Ramey tells us that temperature does make a significant difference in fire activity and behavior, but isn't usually the driving force behind fire ignition or danger.
In addition to weather, fuels plays a major role. If the fuels over time have been allowed to build up from fire suppression activities and land management activities or lack thereof, until everybody comes together and starts working on the reduction of these hazardous fire fuels, fire's going to do what it's going to do.
The cartoon character he created is now larger than life, as the hit animated series SpongeBob SquarePants has been viewed by hundreds of millions globally, and its bubbly yellow star is a household name.
I grew up on SpongeBob, so I always loved watching it and stuff. I thought it was a great show.
I used to love it. Super funny. I've always loved pineapples, of course. That's where he lived in.
But before all that, Stephen Hillenberg was just an ordinary college student attending Humboldt State University. He majored in natural resources interpretation with an emphasis in marine biology.
He came here because he was in love with the ocean. And in the process of his education, he discovered creative ways to apply the knowledge that he gained through studying nature interpretation, discovered his love of art, and found a way to marry those interests in an unusual, creative, and entertaining way.
But the college town where he spent his time studying also captivated him, as many spots throughout Arcata are rumored to be the basis for some of the fictional places in the underwater world he created. Most notably, Star's Hamburgers on G Street.
Years ago when Steve was going to HSU, this building that is now Star's Hamburgers was called the Burger Shop. And so he based the Krusty Krab on this building. You'll see a lot of foreign exchange students who stand outside and take group photos. And a lot of people come in and ask.
But what might be the most important piece of Hillenberg's legacy is the way he inspires current HSU students to follow their dreams, serving as an everlasting reminder that anyone who pursues their passion can achieve anything.
I know I can make it. For someone like him who graduated in marine biology, I want to say, and he created a show, and I'm like, wow, so if this person can make it, I know I can make it. And so that's what I see.